Comfort during the chaos. They say anything is possible if you put your mind to it. So what if I told you that you could find comfort in the midst of chaos? It doesn't take a genius to point out how mutually chaotic life is for everyone lately. My storms, your storms, and the storms of our neighbors all seem a little heavier when you factor in the torrential downpour of life. Chaos is a beast with many faces. With no respect of person, chaos has no boundaries, but even worse, no timeline. Sometimes we can see it coming, but a lot of times we can't. When that dark cloud creeps in, we are put in a position where we respond with many different emotions. From confusion and fear to anger and sadness, chaos envelops our already cluttered lives. Our greatest weapon against chaos is and will always be order. Now, order is a concept that is as amorphous as chaos itself, just in the opposite direction. Order for me looks drastically different than order for you or the next person. The point of order is basically to put you back in control of some aspect of your life. Finding a measure of comfort during the chaos sees you bringing order to multiple areas of your life. Order in your mind, order in your actions, and finally, order in your spirit. Take back your peace and say no to the chaos. Order in your mind. When chaos manifests, one of the first things affected is your mind. Things like fear and doubt consume us in one way or another. This leads to hysterical hypotheticals and stress-inducing, often pessimistic scenarios. The pressure of what is triggers the mind to introduce more weight to an already heavy situation. In doing so, one becomes less composed and irrational. Chaos often causes us to give the wrong entity the keys to the car, so to speak, taking you out of the driver's seat and moving you to the back seat. Acting out of a place of desperation, we jump straight to the worst case scenario. Now, in times such as these, we have to take extra care to keep order in our minds. When the negative possibilities try to invite themselves in, do your best to check them at the door. Introduce them to some measure of positive reality. Meaning, find a positive thing going on in your life currently, and let that act as blinders, cutting off your view of negative what may be's. In the case of finding yourself in the midst of chaos, you have to do your best to be rational about the situation and introduce positivity into your otherwise negative situation. In due time, the fog will fade. Order in your actions. Along with establishing order in your mind, we must also bring order to our actions. A big part of this process has to do with empathy and letting go of selfishness and putting yourself in the shoes of another. Chaos breeds fear. Fear induces panic, and sadly, panic brings out the worst in people. Once we are able to get to a place where we understand our comfort doesn't have to hinge on the discomfort of others, then we will be in a good place. In times of chaos, do what you can to secure you and yours, but be mindful that you take into consideration that you are not the only person wading through the waters of chaos. Be deliberate, not erratic. Be patient, not brash. But most importantly, be kind and not crass. This, my friends, is not just to your fellow man, but to you, the person in the mirror. When you see it possible, introduce a little positivity into a situation. A random act of kindness goes a long way. They say that actions speak louder than words, so my advice to you is don't talk about it, be about it. Order in your spirit. By choosing to bring order to your mind and order to your actions, you will find that this ultimately brings order to your spirit. This is where the comfort comes into play. Being able to compartmentalize the turbulent waves of life and move forward with peace, rationality, and mindfulness brings you to a place of stillness. No, you may not be able to stop the chaos, but you now have a healthy level of comfort in knowing that you can make it through this. Being consistent with your intake of positivity does well to see the shackles of chaos reduce not only in size, but also coverage. For those of us who are believers, this is the point where your faith will not only be required, but also tested, invested, and yes, you guessed it, manifested, right before your very eyes. As we face our version of the Red Sea in Jericho, we need to remember to bring order to our minds and actions. For once order is achieved in our spirit, you'll find comfort in knowing that those waves will part and those walls will be broken. Remember that at the end of it all, we are in control of objectively very little in this life. Chief among them, however, is ourselves. When you learn to fight chaos with order, you too will know comfort in spite of. So in closing, seemingly around every corner sits the vagrant known as chaos. Looking for a place to lay its head, chaos often invites itself to places where it doesn't belong. With its slick tongue and pushy nature, chaos manipulates people in the worst ways. To begin the eviction process, first you must introduce order into your mind, getting to a place where your outlook and thoughts are positive and rational. Next comes some order in your action. Move with purpose, patience, and positivity, which leads to order in your spirit, which sees you comfortable in the face of this unwanted chaos. Before long, chaos will move along, and you will be in a place where you can now fill the void constructed by negativity with new, positive possibilities. Go forward and be blessed. You got this.